Good morning. This is Luann. I'm a trainer here at the Big Hairy Dog, and today our topic is sales orders in Retail Pro version 9. There's an agenda up on the screen here. We're going to be flipping in and out of this agenda, but the goal for this webinar is to introduce the different types of sales orders, some of the basics about how they work and how they interact with sales receipts, and some of the reporting and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize my agenda, right? And then we're going to get started. First, we're going to take a short tour of system preferences that have to do with sales orders, right? So sales orders are a plan to sell something to somebody in the future. Most people use sales orders for layaways, i.e. somebody's going to take some merchandise, they're going to put it in the back room, they're going to pay over time, and when they fully paid it, they get to take it home, and then it becomes a sale. Some people use sales orders for special orders. A customer may want something that you either are out of stock in or you don't actually carry, but you're going to try to get it for them. So you can optionally take some money against it or not. You can go out, get the item, call the customer when they come in, and then they can come pick it up and pay for it if they haven't paid for the whole thing already. And then there's some other uses for it that are less used that I may mention as we go along. But essentially, that's what a sales order is: a plan to sell something to somebody in the future. Okay. And so in system preferences, I'm going to go into options and system preferences and local preferences and point of sale and sales orders. There are a few settings in here that control what happens when you do special orders. Comments, pretty self-explanatory. These are the comments, and we can have a pick from the list comments or defaults. Most people don't use default comments for sales orders or instructions. At this point, let me point out that there are comments, right, and then there are instructions. The comments, if you put comments on the bottom of the sales order, those would flow through to the sales receipt, okay, and if you use the instruction set, this would flow through to a purchase order if you use the generate PO feature, okay, so that's just something to stick in the back of your mind when we go through the process. Really the only reason we need to be in here is for options, right? So up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a minimum percentage box. For the three major kinds of orders that people use the system for, we've got a special order, customer order, and a layaway, okay? And there's no magic, there's no inherent difference between the types of orders. These are just labels that we put on it. So there's nothing in the system behavior-wise that distinguishes a customer order from a special order from a layaway order. This is just terminology or labels that we've chosen to kind of hard code on these. Okay. And in general, I'm going to start here with a layaway. Everybody understands what a layaway is. Not many retailers use it much anymore. However, it still exists. You can put something on layaway. As a customer, you put something on layaway, you select some items, they put it in the back, they promise to keep it in the back until you have a chance to pay for it over time. Most of the time, people would require some a deposit on that up front, right? And so I've already put like a 20% in here, and I'm requiring that. So I'm going to make it really hard when the cashier rings up a layaway order to get by without taking money against a layaway. So that's what the require box does. For a special order, I'm saying, okay, so a special order is something that, I don't usually carry. So if I order that, purple and gold, fishing rod or whatever it is for somebody, I want to make sure that they're really going to come and get it. So I get some money up front to make sure that they're really serious about wanting that item. Now, in this case, I've chosen not to require it, so that could be discretionary. You can choose to take that deposit, choose to take something a little less than that, and you would have that choice. And for a customer order, a lot of people use customer orders for, you know what, I know I have some of those coming in next week. Let me put a sales order, a customer order in for you, so when that comes in, I'll know I can call you, right, and you can come down and get it. So in that case, there's not a lot of risk to the merchant that they're just going to put that in stock if the customer ends up not wanting it, right? So we may not require any or suggest any deposit. And these are all configurable. You can choose to use these, put these any way that you need to be. In the, let's see, we're not going to talk about much over here in the options down here under record sale. So when the customer comes to pick up the items, one thing that you can do to make sure that the item or that the inventory is affected is called record sale. And most of the time, we're not going to want to record that transaction as a sale until we have all the money. So that's the way all of these are set, although there are options, right? And I might cover some of those options over in when we actually go through the process. Okay. There's a setting here that a lot of people use, automatically record sale after final deposit. I'm going to leave that off because it gives me more flexibility. Okay. And then there's automatically print if you're recording sale. I'm going to turn that on just so you can see what that process is when we get to it. Right. So those are just kind of the way most people use this. Not that that works for everybody, right? But that's just a little bit about what those settings are. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sales order tab. So this is a separate tab from your sales receipts, right? And you go to the sales order tab and you get a list view with a date range up at the top. This is similar to purchase orders if you use purchase orders. And I've already got one order in here that's a customer order that I've been playing with. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a layaway. We're going to create a special order so you can see how the deposits work. And then we might create another customer order just so we go through all of the types of orders. All right, so to create a new order, basically it's click on new. Right, you get this pop-up that asks you what type of order you're going to be creating. And again, there's no inherent difference between how a customer order and a special order and a layaway behaves, other than what we set in system preferences. Plus, you can automatically assign print document designs, right, to each type of order. So that comes in handy, especially if you're using layaways and you want some layaway terms on your receipt when you create an order. That can be handy. The other two things you see on here, store registry and company registry. This is a type of order, but it's a special type of sales order, and basically we define that as kind of like a wish list. So it's a registry, kind of like a baby registry or gift registry, or that type of thing where you can make a list of items. It does not affect inventory. It does not affect what we call committed in the system. So we're not really going to get too far into store registry, but if you start using special orders or sales orders and you see those two things, some people have them grayed out because they're never going to use them. Some people do use them and just know it's a special kind of sales order where you don't take any money against it, and it's just for creating a list to help customers coming in the event of a bridal. Some people in your business use this for outfitters, right? So outfitters come in and they want their customers to have XYZ. Right, so they create a list in a store registry and they just print that out and they can give it to the customer, or somebody can help them go through the store and pick out what they need. Okay. So I've seen it used that way too. All right, so we've already got a customer order, so I'm going to go do a special order here. Okay. Now, one thing about a sales order, it has to have a customer. Okay, so there's no way you can get a sales order created in the system unless you have a customer. So I've put in, I think I can get to it this way, just a generic customer here that I can use to put all my orders in. This prompt, you may have this set or not, but the ship to address can be different. If you're using this for web sales, sometimes you have a bill to address and a ship to address, and it will ask you if you're going to be the same or different, right? We'll just, for this demonstration, we're just going to click yes for all of those things and not really get into it. So you can set, in the case of a layaway in particular, right? You can set dates for 60 days or whatever. In the case of a special order, maybe it's going to take you X time to get that thing, so you can say this is when I expect to ship it. And this is only important for reporting purposes. That you're going to have an order date, which is the date that you created the order. You can have a ship date, and you can have a cancel date. Cancel date's really only important if you're doing a layaway. Okay, so got to have a customer, right? And then, of course, you have to have some items. Okay. Okay, so this is a menswear thing. So I've got lots of menswear ALUs in my head, right? So let's say this customer, we're out of this size of blazer, but we're either going to special order it for him and get it in, or we know we already have it on order, right? So you list the items on the sales order, you click the Save button, okay? And in this particular case, we've told the system we want to take 50%, right? So, and we've left it optional. So that's why you see I can take the whole balance, I can take the minimum amount, or I can take nothing. I have that option. So if I chose to take the half, right, I still have a chance here. So that's kind of an awkward amount. And if I wanted to change that to, $700, I would do it right here. Hit the tender button. Okay, and then take the form of tender, right? So we're going to stick with cash because it's the easiest. Now, when you print here in this screen, you're only going to get a receipt for the $700. You're not going to get the detail, okay? So a lot of times we set this to, let's just update this only, right? And then go back to print my order. Okay, and I didn't really have a chance to get all those filtered, but it can look something like this. It can also be on a 40-column receipt. We have those, but essentially the basics are who have I promised this to, what have I promised them, and how much money have I taken. Right. So this shows that they've given us $700. They still owe us $613.40. You can print this out, give it to the customer, and you have his contact information. He's got the information, and you've got an order number, okay, that you can use to reference if he calls in to ask the status. You can go in and find this order. Now, one thing about the SO process, it has an option here to generate purchase order. So if you have put this on a sales order and you generate PO, okay, if there's multiple items on here and they're from different vendors, it's going to generate a PO for each vendor. So in the case of customer order or special order, this is something that you might do. In the case of a layaway, probably not so much, right? So you put that thing in the back, right, and you're not going to reorder that item until the customer actually picks it up. Okay. All right, so I'm going to generate PO just so you can see what that looks like. It's going to generate PO 218. Okay, so I'm going into my PO view. So the thing about generating POs is that's going to tag this PO with the SO number, right? So now you can place this with the vendor. When the vendor ships it, PO number 218, you know that it belongs to a special order, and it's easy to follow the trail to get back to who have I promised this to, call the customer, have them come down and get it. Okay. So we're going to do the come down and get it thing later, okay, because I wanted to do a special order, and then I wanted to do a layaway, right? So I'm going to go through a layaway quickly. Then we're going to look at some of the reporting that exists for sales orders, and then we're going to do some of the completions of the sale. All right, so new layaway. Okay, again, we have to have customer. Okay, and let's pick different customer now, just because. All right, so layaway, you can see you've got a slightly different lead through up here at the top. So payment due date, right? We're going to give them like 30 or something like that. We're going to give them to the end of August to make the next payment. Total due by 2 days. Okay, into September, right? So I'm telling them they got to make it. This is probably a little generous. Let's go that. Okay, so you have control over this payment schedule, and you can set when the drop dead date is. And this is important because there's a report, right, that can show you where the layaways are at as far as overdue payments and so forth. All right, so I'm going to put a couple things on this layaway. Okay, let's do one of those. Okay. Okay, and one of those. Okay, we've got some popular suits here. All right, so you're going to put this on layaway. When you save this, okay, it's going to require that we get at least 20%. Okay, so with a layaway, of course, you're not going to take the whole thing. But let's say we're going to get $900 out of this guy to put this on layaway. Okay, so there's the payment. Okay, and again here with the initial payment, I want to update only. Okay, and then print this, and let's see if I've got 40 column layaway that makes sense to show here. On approval, special, SO layaway. Most of these are the defaults that come with the system. I just hate showing those. 40 column, this, customer order, well, we'll try this. This is going to be ugly, but you'll get the drift. That's just so ugly. Anyway, so list the items. Again, here lists how much you've deposited and what your balance due is. This one does not have the payment listed on it. So if let me reprint this and use this. One of the things that is possible, okay, we'll try that again. So, okay, one of the things that's possible is we can show your payment history on this. So we'll make another payment on this layaway. You can see this down at the bottom. So it shows the initial payment, and as they come back in and make subsequent payments, when we print this statement, more or less, for them, it will have additional payments and then show what their balance due is. All right, so those are possible on both the 40 column and an 80 column. All right, so I'm going to make an additional payment here on my layaway, and then we'll go look at reports since we have one of each type. Okay, so to make a payment on a layaway, right, you need to go to sales orders. Okay, you go to find the layaway, right, and by the way, in the sales order list view, right, you should have a pull down, which I seem to have taken off of here, okay, that you can filter by type, SO type, right? So if you just want to see your layaways or you just want to see your customer orders, that should be possible with a quick filter, right? And if you want to add the quick filter up here and you don't know how, let us know. We can help you with that really quick. Most of the default layouts that we have the SO type up in the quick filter. Right, so you find the layaway, you can filter to it by customer or by layaway type. I'm looking at only the active layaways. Okay. So if I form view this just so I can see, yeah, that's the one, that's the stuff, or if the customer has his actual layaway number, so you can verify in case they have more than one going, that would be a good idea. But if you're going to make a payment, all you do is find the layaway, click on SO deposits, right? Tell it you're going to do a new deposit, okay? And then it's going to default to the whole thing, right? If you are not taking the whole thing, okay, then you change the amount right here, okay? Go to tender, right? And then tender it out just the way you would anything else. I would recommend that you update only. So that's going to throw you back into, okay, the order, right? And so now if you print, okay, you're going to have, here's payment history down here at the bottom, right? So made a $900 payment on 7/18 and made a $500 payment on 7/18. Obviously, this isn't reality, but they still owe $26.49. So you can give them a new statement if they come in to make a payment. You can, you know, print this and keep it with the merchandise, whatever you feel you need to do in order to keep everybody informed of where the state of this order is. Okay, so now that we have 3 different kinds in my current view, we're going to go through some of the reports that are available, okay, and then we'll do some pickups and things like that, right? So I've already got reports open, okay, and so in the reports module here, there are some journals that come with the system. There's some summary reports that come with the system. We're going to go to the summaries first. Okay, so way down here in alphabetical order, there's 2. There's committed merchandise, okay, and fulfillment, right? So first we need to understand what committed is, okay, and what committed is if I look at this sales order and I look at this blue blazer, right? I have committed that blazer to a customer, okay? So either it's sitting in the back on my layaway shelf, or when it comes in, I need to make sure that customer gets that item because I've taken some money against it, right? So if I highlight this item and I go to this committed button right here, this pops up a little display that shows me where this item is committed and how many are committed. So this sales order, 7475, right, has 1 on it, right, and I don't have any in stock, right? So I put something on layaway that I didn't have in stock, but if this were a sales order for something that I'm waiting to come in, that's what this would mean. Now, if I actually have a purchase order outstanding for that, then I would see that down here in incoming. Okay, so what I wanted to do was back up to my clear. Okay, back up to my special order. Okay, and this item, which is committed, okay, is committed on 2 separate sales orders and 1 PO. Okay, so with the committed screen, right, you can see the status of that single item. Okay, what this is telling you is that I have 1 on this order and 2 on this order. Okay, only 1 coming in right now, so I'm still short, right? I need to, you know, place another order to cover this, most likely. Okay. In any case, when I go to report, okay, for committed, okay, and I run this, I'm just going to look at things that were today because I don't want to get a lot of stuff on here. All right, so committed merchandise. Okay, so what this report, the committed, shows is what you have on sales orders, either a customer order or a special order or a layaway, right, that has not been delivered to the customer. Okay, so it can show you totally what's outstanding. So if you get a large order of merchandise in and you're not sure whether some of it belongs or is committed to a customer, then you can run that report and see. Okay. Okay, so that's one order, right? The committed merchandise. So these are items that are outstanding that have not been given to the customer yet. Okay, the other report here in summaries, right, is this SO fulfillment report. Okay, and the fulfillment report was really designed to be kind of like a packing list type of a situation. Okay, so if I run this report, okay, for, let's see, what I'm going to get here, ship date. I put a ship date on one of those. So okay, so let's see. Let's see what I do if I do this. Let's see what I get. Should get at least, nope. I got to do, okay, let's see, clear. Sales order number, SO type. Well, let's just do everything and see if I get something just to show you. Yeah, I'll get something. So this is designed to be what we call like a packing slip, right? So this kind of looks like what you might include if you're using this for web orders, right? So I've got who am I sending, who has ordered it, right? And what their address information is, what they have ordered, right? And whether or not I've sent any against this order. So until this order is fulfilled, right, you could print this, right, and use it to pull the merchandise and get it packed up and ready to send. So that's what the fulfillment report is designed to do. It's 1 page per order, right? So if I'm paging through here, I'm seeing all, but I've got a bunch of orders sitting from old stuff here, probably my last, here's the last one I did, right at the end, right? So this shows, this is my layaway, right? Which the fulfillment may not make too much sense in this case, but I should have 2 of these sitting in the back, right? I've taken this much payment against it. As soon as I get the rest of my 2649, then I can, tell the customer or let the customer have this and pick it up. Okay, so that's a fulfillment report. Okay, now the other reports are up here in journals. Okay, and there's several of them. The titles hopefully are reasonably self-explanatory. So a deposit journal essentially is how much money did I take in, right, on sales orders, and we're just going to do today's business, right? So just those couple that we have done so far today. Hopefully just today. Yes. Okay. So we took in a special order, right? We took in $700 against the special order. I've got $613.40 still due on that. Okay. On my layaway, right? I took 2 deposits, right, for a total of $1,400. You don't see the 2 deposits, and that's my balance due, right? So if you are looking for the total activity, right, on a specific day, right, then you're pulling the orders by the day the order was created, right? So what you don't see on here is that other order because it was older. Okay, so if I run this and I say, let's change this, up a couple days, I'm going to cast a wider net here, and I'm going to get more of my orders. Okay, the deposit amount is the total deposit amount for the entire life of the order, right? So if I look at these, I have some people that haven't left me any money. Okay, balance. So here's a couple in here. So test customer here, right? That one's totally paid off, but for whatever reason, you know, the customer, we haven't finished it, and we will go finish some of these, right? As part of this webinar, right? 74, 73. Okay. So the deposit journal, filter by the order date, and there's some other parameters, but this shows you the current state of the deposit versus the balance due, okay, on a report. Deposit journal with details, very similar to the one we just looked at, but is got the item numbers on it. Okay, so that's what this one looks like. There we go. Right, so you can see this one. I'm overflowing my page a little bit, but this one has the order by order for the day, right? What items were on it, what the state of the deposit is overall, right? And this one has a summary down here at the bottom that shows each order, summary for each order. And I think that's it, right? So if you're looking for audit type of information, that one can be handy. Okay, layaway journal, that's basically just for layaway type transactions. Okay, let's just look at this. All right, so there's my one layaway, right? This only captures layaway. That's what it's designed to do. Okay, so that's the state of it. So if you're going to audit your layaways and figure out what needs to be one second. I'm going to pause this for just a second. 1 second, people. Hang on just a second here. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that little interlude. The layaway journals just show the layaways, do show the details, show current state of your balance due. Right, so if you're going to audit your layaways, that's another tool. You have to do that. Right, past due layaways. This is one of the ones that, you know, the relatively recent addition. If you're on current versions of Retail Pro, you should have this one. And I just want to run all of them, I believe. Okay, so this, you can see you've got deposit, past due, 30, 60, 90, et cetera, right? So I've got several older layaways in here because this is an actual database here. So that's why my, yeah, actually that's not bad, relatively current. But what this would attempt to do is break down your overdue payments, past due 60 days, past due 90 days, past due 90 days and above. Sometimes this is because you didn't put a payment due by date in the system, okay? But this report is designed to help you show what you need to focus on if you are using layaways and you do require that customers pick up by a certain day, right? So if I've got something that is due by total days due, so 477, right? So if I've got people that are in my overdue bucket, right? So total due deposit balance, blah, blah, blah. Here's my today. That shouldn't be overdue. So look like my days due, right? Minus 73.56 days due, right? That's the one I just created, right? So this one is overdue by 434 days, right? So that's what that's trying to tell you. hopefully, if you're using layaways, you can make sure you get a final due date on it and use this report. If you have problems, questions, whatever, get with one of the trainers and we can help you, make some sense out of this report if it doesn't make any sense. And the last journal that we have, Unfilled SO journal, okay, is designed just to show you, regardless of what sales order type you have, you can show only those things that are active, right, which is always a good idea. Talk about inactivation in a couple of minutes, okay, or only show me those that are, 100% unfilled, okay, because you can fulfill these partially, and then I'm pretty sure there is a type, right, so if you only want to see the special orders, then you can choose to do that. Okay, this is probably going to have buku things on it because I have a lot of inactive orders on here, right? Anyway, it's a list of orders that you still owe people, right? So sent quantity here, 0, right? Due quantity 1, right? So I still owe these people these orders. So you need to print it out, get a list, figure out what's going on with all of them, right? So all of these reports are ones that come with Retail Pro. They're designed to do different things depending on, what your goal is at the time. Okay, we covered those kind of briefly. I like to do that before I start showing how to pick up or finish orders. Okay, so we've got a couple of different cases here. We've got a customer order, right, that they paid partial on, and let's say for this order that, well, it's got 2 things on it. We'll use that one for our partial. Let's go to special order here, right? So let's say this blazer has come in. Okay, so it's come in. We call the customer runs down to the store, but we need to take the money from him, right? So there is 2 different ways that we can complete this, right? Usually we train people to use the receipts screen, right? So you use the receipts screen, you start a transaction, okay, and then what you do is you source the sales order, right? So there's a field on the sales receipt that you can add, okay, that has a sales order number, okay, search, right? So if you don't have the sales order number, you can search the active sales orders and find the one you want, or you could type just this last 4 significant digits of the sales order number. Sales order number are really long because this is a store number, and then 0, and then whatever the next number is in the sequence. But in order to find this, you really only have to have the last significant part of that. So if I go down to sales order and I type 7474, I'm going to go right to that. Okay, so what that does for you is that pulls in the customer. So you don't have to put the customer in ahead of time. If you have the sales order number, or you can find it in the search, that pulls in the customer. Okay, and then you need to tell the system what you're picking up, right? So SO items, right? There's either a button in the middle or on the side that says SO items. Okay, and this would list everything that was on the order. Okay, in this case, we're picking up everything that was on the order. So we can click this, these 3 little green check marks where it's check all due. Okay, and that's going to put that item on the sales receipt, right? And because we already have a deposit, I don't even have to know that we do. If I pick a form of tender, okay, it's automatically going to tell me, hey, you have a deposit. Do you want to use it? And, 99% of the time, the answer is yes. Can't think of a real good reason why we wouldn't want to use the deposit. It will tell you how much of the deposit is, right? You take the deposit, that will subtract the money that's already paid and leave you with what's left. Okay, so when you take payment for what's left, Okay, now you've paid for the item, you've taken it out of inventory. Okay, so you can print, you know, this kind of receipt. Okay, let's see. Look at that. Okay, so this will show you, should show you the sales receipt. Let's just go back here. Okay, list view, print. Let's try that one more time. Okay, so this sales receipt shows the customer purchased this and how it was paid for, right? They gave us $613 in cash today, and we used the deposit from a previous transaction, $700, right? So they paid for that. There's their receipt. Okay, now, if I go back to the sales order screen, okay, all that activity is recorded because we referenced 7474 on a receipt. So if we go to the form view, right, I can see now here that they ordered one, they picked up one, right, and we don't owe them anything. So now that's going to drop off of some of my reports because we no longer owe them that. Okay, if I look at my committed, right, it's dropped off of here too, right? It's already picked up. It's not on here anymore. I still have two that are on a different order, and I still have this PO, but this one's been completed. Okay. Also, I wanted to point out there should be sometimes it's a second page. So down at the bottom in the deposits page, this can show the history of what's happened on this sales order. This is the initial deposit right here, transaction 24230, and this is the receipt that took it out of inventory, used the deposit, and oh, by the way, paid for the rest of it, right? So under the due table, right, they ordered $1,200 worth of merchandise. We sold it on a receipt, so nothing's pending. This one, for all intents and purposes, is done. Okay, now, it doesn't automatically inactivate, right? So when you've picked up the order, whether you use this record sale over here, right, and we'll do that with one of these in a second, okay, whether you use the record sale over here or you pick it up in a sales receipt, it doesn't automatically inactivate this order. So somebody's job needs to be going through and inactivating orders, right? So if I am done with this one, I inactivate it, okay, and then it drops off my active list, so you can see active only up here, right? If I click show inactive, I'll see that back, right? So this one is actually inactive, so the red X up here, the toggle for activate and activate, shows me that if I click that, I can reactivate it, okay? But I don't want to do that right now. I want to hide the inactives because when I come in to my view of the sales orders lists, right, I really only want to see the active ones. If I'm done with it, I'm done with it, right? It's inactivated, it's done. And what a lot of people do not realize is that you can inactivate something even though you owe the customer something. You owe the merchandise. So I'm going to change my date range here, talk about this for just a second. Okay, so I've got a bunch of these orders here, right? And I have, you know, these orders here where they have not given me any money. I have not given them any merchandise, right? So if I look at the SO details, right, I've got on order. I never sent them anything. I never took any money, so there's nothing there, right? So I can inactivate this. So if this was a special order where I say, I'll try to get it for you, okay, and you're not able to, right, and so you call the customer and say, I'm really sorry, can't get that, but we haven't taken any money. So all you really need to do, right, with this is inactivate it like that, right? And now it goes into the inactive list. It's not deleted. It's not gone. And you could go, you know, if something happens and the customer says, remember that, you know, whatever it is that I ordered and you never got, you can always pull that out of the inactives and look at it if you need to. Okay. One thing that you want to be guard against doing is when you have taken money, right? So if I've, this layaway or this order in particular, right, if I decide that I want to inactivate this, that's the one we've, yeah, that's when we, yeah, take the balance again. Okay, if I decide that I want to inactivate this, I've taken some money, right? So if I try to inactivate it, it's going to want to create a store credit with that money, right? So that's an automatic thing. So when you're cleaning up your orders, if you have taken money against an order and you have not given them any merchandise in exchange for that money, we're going to want to keep that on a store credit or refund it to the customer's credit card or whatever that we're going to do, because we can't keep that money unless we know what merchandise it should be marked against. Okay, so I'm not actually going to do this for this one, but I'd want to demonstrate that. All right, so let me put my filter back. Oh, not that filter, my date range filter. All right, so days ago is how I had this set. All right, so we're going to focus in on, we've done a pickup in a sales order or in a sales receipt for a single item. Okay, I've got this transaction, right, that is a customer order that's fully paid for. All right, so if I look at this with my SO details, I've got 3 items on it, okay, and nothing is due, right? So let's say all 3 of these items come in, okay, and the customer's already paid for it, okay, and so with one click, I can tell the system the customer's come to pick this up. So with all sales orders, we never want to show that the quantity was sent until we've actually delivered to the customer. So either we put it in a box and ship it to them, or they come down and get it. Okay, but it's not a sale until that happens. Okay, and that's one thing with sales orders that throws some people is, what were my sales for the day? Well, your sales are based on what merchandise was delivered to customers, not how much money you took in. Okay, so in this case, right, let's say all of these came in, they're all ready to go, the customer's already paid for them. So let's say, you know, he says, just ship them, right? So you put them in a box, right? Charge them shipping if you want, but you could just record sale here on the side, okay? And what record sale does, okay, let's look at this. Okay, so what record sale does is sell all 3 of these items and use that deposit to pay for them. Okay, so it's one click. That's really simple. A lot of people do, you know, their sales orders that way, particularly if they're, you know, shipping them to a customer, you know, or, you know, everything is going out at one time. Okay, there's one instance or situation where you're not able to record sale, and that's if you allow partial pickups. Okay, so now this customer order here, right, has been delivered, right? So we don't know the customer anything, they don't owe us anything, no quantity due, so this one's done. Okay, and we inactivate it. Okay, now for this last one, okay, our layaway. Okay, so we have 2 items on this layaway, and let's just say, for instance, you allow the customer to pick up an item once you've got enough money to pay for it, right? So we have $1,400 on deposit, and let's say the customer really needed this blue blazer for something. Okay, so we can partially pick that up, okay, and use the deposit. We can either use all of it to pay for the item or part of it to pay for the item, and this is how that would work. The smartest and simplest thing to do is to go to receipts, Okay, start a new receipt. Okay. Okay, and reference the order. And I didn't write the order number down, so I'm going to go down in here and see where it is. Okay, so here's my sole remaining order for the day. All right, so I know whose transaction this is, right? And if I go to SO items on the side, okay, and we're going to pick up this one. So instead of clicking the all due thing, I'm going to change the doc quantity here to 1, right? And say OK. So that picks up this item and this item only. Now, the system knows that I've already got some money against this. So if I say cash, right, it's going to say use SO deposit, and it's going to default to part of the money. So because we have set layaway to require 20% deposit, it's going to try to keep some of the deposit money to hold on to that other item. And you can override this if you have the rights. That's your choice. Okay. But generally, people who want to make sure that they have money against the layaway items that are remaining, right, would take something or something close to this, right? So I'm just going to change this to take $500 out of this. Okay, so if I take $500 of the deposit, that leaves me with $703.95 that he's going to pay today to take this thing home. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and then we can give him this. No problem with my printer today. Okay, so cancel. Okay, let's print. Try that again. There we go. All right, so this is what you took home today, Mr. Customer. Right, we used $500 of your deposit, and you gave me another $795, so you could take this thing home and wear it over the weekend. And then we're going to go back to our sales order and see what our sales order looks like now. Okay. All right, so here's my sales order, my layaway. I have delivered this. This is still in the back, right? If I do print my my SO now, I have all of that encapsulated on here. So if you wanted to print this for the customer so he knows the whole history of everything, we still have his Gucci suit or blazer or whatever this heck is in the back, right? He still owes us $19.45 on this Gucci blazer. $900 has already been is on deposit for this Gucci blazer. Okay, so here's a summary of all the activity that's happened on here. He's taken one item home, and he still owes us on the rest, and he can continue to pay it off. Okay. One thing now, you'll notice that record sale is grayed out, right? I can never record sale on this item because it's had a partial pickup, right? So if you like to use record sale, then you want to not allow partial pickups because that just gets in the way. All right. Okay. Let's see if we go back to, there's one other thing that we cover, right, on this webinar. We have not done this generating from a receipt, right? Looks like we've covered almost everything except for multi-store, right? So let me review how to create a sales order from a receipt, because a lot of people do it this way. When we do this webinar, we go through, it's more convenient to go through all the types as generating a sales order in the sales order screen. Okay, but the alternative is you can go to receipt and you're, let's say you're, talking to a customer, okay, and I'm just gonna put some stuff on here, right? So we got one of these. And let's say we're going to have 5 of these, and 0, 1, 3, 8, 2, 5. For whatever reason, right? We get going here, and the customer says, right, you are out of stock in some of these, and you can't sell it to him today. You can turn this sale into a sales order. Okay, you can't turn it into a sales order without a customer, right? So if you see this generate SO button down here, it's grayed out, right? It knows there's no customer on here yet. So you have to add customer to the receipt. Okay, and then once you do that, okay, now generate SO is lit up. Right now, if you generate SO, it's going to generate an SO for all the items on the receipt. So if the customer wants to take some home today, some of this home today, and leave a special order for the rest, right, then that's some extra steps. Okay, but let's say, for instance, where this is a pretty simple case, and we want to put both of those on a layaway or a customer order or whatever, right? So you get a customer listed on the receipt, you get the items listed on the receipt, you hit generate SO. Okay, and then your choice here is, do I want to put the receipt on hold? And the answer to this is, if you want to come back to it, right, and sell something off of this, then put it on hold and pick it up. If all of this is going on the sales order, then just guard the receipt. Tell me what's going on, which type of SO it is. We're going to say layaway for now. So that throws you into the SO screen like you went into it from scratch, right? But it pulls the customer in and it pulls the items in, okay? And it goes right to what do you want to, how do you want to pay for that, right? So we're going to say take some minimum amount here, maybe change this to $300 because that's an awkward amount, cash, okay, and then I'm going to update only. Okay, now this is a choice, right? When you do it this way, I can automatically prompt you to print certain things at certain times. Okay, so in this case, right, I want to print a copy of this for the customer, and the lead through will allow me to do that, right? So here's what you put on order, Mr. Customer. Here's how much you paid me today. Here's how much you still owe, right? So that is generating an SO from a receipt, okay? And then when you're done here, it takes you back to the receipt screen, right? So a lot of people prefer to do it this way, but you have less flexibility on adding things to that order once you get over in the order. So essentially you have to have the customer and the items that you want to put on the SO, right, all listed on the receipt before you generate SO. Okay. Once you've generated the SO, if you forgot something or something needs to change, you can always go into the sales order. Here's the one we just created, right? And you can edit this, right? So the other thing about a sales order is you can change anything you want about these items here, right, up until the point where you actually deliver them to the customer, right? So if this quantity needed to be 4, right, you can change that. If this quantity should have been 1, you can change that, right? If they changed their minds and you wanted to take this line off, right, then you can just remove that line, okay, and save it, right? So none of that affects the actual deposit, right? So still got our $300 that we took, and now they only owe us $247.25, right? So this is an order, right? And with any order, everything that you do, right, is just a plan, right, until you either record sale, right, which makes it then an inventory transaction, makes it a receipt, right, or you do a pickup from the receipt screen. Okay. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to point out about this whole process is on the receipts screen, right, when we take any money, right, we make a receipt. So regardless of whether your any merchandise is on the transaction, we took money here. So here we took a $500 deposit, okay, in cash on this sales order, 74.75. No merchandise involved here. Okay, so that confuses some people sometimes. If you see this, right, this we used the deposit, okay, to pay for these items, right? So we came into a receipt, we gave it the receipt. No, this was the one we recorded sale. So we recorded sale, it creates a receipt, right? So anytime you have the inventory part of this transaction, it's generating a receipt, right? Anytime you take any money, it's generating a receipt. So often those things aren't, you know, on the same day, right? So somebody comes in, they take a payment on a layaway, right? That goes into your, you know, into your deposit. You have that money, you're taking it to the bank, but there's no inventory changing hands until the final, until the end. All right, so let's see. Back at my agenda here. All right, so we can talk a little bit about multi-store, right? I did cover the system preferences up front. So let's see. Okay. Again, Amy, I know you came in a little bit late. If you're still listening, you will get an email back with the link to this recorded webinar so you can review it from the start. And I'm not sure if you are multi-store, but the other gentleman who's in this is multi-store, so I'm just going to cover that, you know, quickly here at the end. Right. So generally, when you make a sales order, right, there's two store, like number two store things that can happen. There's a sell from store and a process at store. Okay, so the sell from store is where the inventory transaction takes place. Process at might be a different store, right? So if you, let's see, in this one, we haven't changed it. Let me see if I can change it. Okay, so if I change the process at store code, that means that the Los Angeles store in this case could potentially fulfill this order. Okay, and some people use this with web orders. They, you know, the web order comes into, you know, a single location, and then you need to figure out, you know, who's got the inventory and who best to fill it. And you can change the process at store code, and that triggers this sales order to be polling-wise sent to the process at store, and they can either you know, pull it, send it, and mark this as sent. Right. The tricky part comes in with the deposit money. Right. So the deposit money goes to the sell from store. The inventory comes out of the process at store. So sometimes this can be a little bit confusing to accounting. But if you are multi-store and you need to handle process at, go over your specific requirements with the trainer, right, and make sure that you understand it so that the accounting people can keep things straight, and that you understand what the difference between process at and sell from store is. I can't send this to Los Angeles and do a pickup. I don't have that capability here, but it is a little tricky. So if you need to try to use that, then we can cover it with additional training. All right, so Reed, I think my other person dropped off.
Okay.
All right, how you doing? You still awake?
Yep.